I'm Chairman Anne-Marie Doremus. Welcome to this meeting of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. We have a man that no one knows, Mr. Wildman Wilson. Where is he? Right there in the back. Hey, Wildman, glad you're here. Ronnie and Kathy Ritter in the back. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for the snack sticks. And we also have Representative Jason Nazarenko. Where's Representative There he is. Representative, thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it. And also, former Commissioner George Dunklin, here to present an award. So very happy to have our guest here. Honorable mention, Joe Doremus is on his way. Our child was misbehaving this morning before school, so he's taking care of that, and I am here. Now I call this meeting to order. First, we'll start off with the prayer and pledge of allegiance. Please stand and participate. And we will have Joe Williams lead us in the prayer.
Let us pray. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to come today and do your business, Lord, that's best for the natural resources of the state of Arkansas. May we be good representatives of the wildlife. May we represent the people of Arkansas in our decisions, Lord. Watch over and care for all those that take care of it. These things we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first order of business this morning is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Can I get a motion? Motion from Commissioner Adams, second from Commissioner Finley. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Next, I need approval of the September 3rd Commission meeting notes. Is there any additions or deletions to these notes? If not, I'll look for an approval.
No. I'll second.
All right, motion from Commissioner Finley, second from Commissioner Tappan. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? Motion is approved. And first up, George Dunklin, former commissioner, is here to present an award, the annual George H. Dunklin Jr. Arkansas Waterfowl and Wetland Management Award. George, you have, first, Luke Naylor.
I'm not George, clearly.
We still love you, though.
Well, I appreciate that. I just want to set the stage a little bit. It's been a couple of years maybe since George has been here to present this award that we started in honor of him when he left the commission. He was the first recipient of the George Dunklin Award. Then there's a placard outside the Wildlife Management Office that lists all the past recipients. And it's not something that's guaranteed to be given out every year. So it's been a couple of years since George has been here. But we're happy to have him back to present the award to a worthy recipient today. And maybe we'll see him back again next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. It's always good to be back home. You know, I served on the commission from 2005 to 2012, so it's great to see familiar faces in the back of the room. And thank you. You always make me feel welcome when I come back. Yeah, I was very honored when I went off the commission. This was a surprise to me that this award was created, and it's created to honor and to the people in our agency, our staff, that do such a tremendous beyond the call of duty, so to speak, for wetlands and for waterfowl. You know, we live in the natural state with the most incredible opportunities that we have in the state with very critical wetlands that provide and habitat provide important resources for these migratory waterfowl. So this is important work. And this gentleman today, the winner today, is a man that's been with us for a while. When you look at, I have nothing to do with the selection. The selection is done by his peers. But I did read over some of the comments from his peers, and they really I think tell a lot about him. This gentleman is extremely dedicated. Just reading some of the comments, this gentleman is extremely dedicated to maximize the effectiveness of active moist soil management and the quality of moist soil units at Ed Gordon, Point Removed Wildlife Management Area. He always is open to new ideas and makes sure every step of the moist soil management process at a Gordon Point Remove is perfect, and consistently talks with others in the wetland programs to make sure everyone has what they need to be able to do their job. He plays a key role in modernizing how we track wetland management through his consistent use of the bushel farm, his work, his document waterway maintenance and beaver trapping activities, and work with the agency team to develop a larger activities tracking tool. I like this one the best. He goes, finally, this gentleman consistently fields numerous questions from curious and often opinionated duck hunters with professionalism. As we know, duck hunters can be pretty opinionated. As a commissioner, it's amazing how many emails I used to get about what we should be doing. But anyway, it is a great honor for me to be able to name the winner and the recipient of this award is Alex Zachary. Alex, come on up, son. Congratulations, sir. Thank you for your work. Got a mic? Thank you. Madam Chairman, thank you for allowing me the time to present this award. I appreciate it. It's good to see all the commissioners.
Thank you, George, and thank you for being here. Once a commissioner, always a commissioner, and we were thrilled to have dinner with you last night and see you here today. Congratulations.
Part of it is I got to get back home. I've got some work to do back at the house.
Well, it's almost duck season, so I'm not surprised.
Food plots.
Thanks, George. Okay, we have one presentation this morning. Nick could go forth with the Arkansas Wildlife Action Plan. Oh, hey, Luke. Good to see you.
Just want to introduce Nick. Nick's been with us for several years now, and there's a massive undertaking that is our Arkansas Wildlife Action Plan that is just, has to be, Nick will talk about this, but it has to be updated on a regular basis to help us receive funding for this work and focus our efforts on the conservation of a whole bunch of species in Arkansas that maybe get talked about a little bit less than some of the more charismatic megafauna. So Nick's here to give us an update on the work he's been doing that's keeping him, has kept him fairly busy over the past few months. So Nick, please.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me here today, Commissioners, Director. I'm glad to be here, excited to talk about Arkansas Wildlife Action Plan, all the work we've put into it with the recent revision and its implementation going forward. So just kind of provide a little background. As we all know, Arkansas is a very beautiful, diverse state. We have lots of, diverse species, lots of endemics only occurring in the state or just this part of the country, really beautiful, diverse habitats. However, since European settlement, we've had a lot of activities that have impacted this, from fire suppression to clear cutting, agriculture, livestock grazing, pine plantations, urban development, stream barrier, altering hydrology and water flows. All these things, which are part of, our society, but have had tremendous impacts on these habitats and the biodiversity species that inhabit them. And that's not just Arkansas. This is, U.S. worldwide. Since 1970, we've seen tremendous declines in biodiversity, across the world, especially freshwater species. I'm sure you've heard Clint, our quail biologist, talk a lot about, the impact this has had on grassland birds, the, tremendous loss of our grasslands, with them being, one of the highest impacted species or groups of birds. Since 1970, looking at over 770 million, individuals lost. It's over 53%, 74% of those species being in decline still today, if not more at this point. And so when we talk about biodiversity, what exactly is that and why is it important? And so, a lot of people think of just the diversity of species, we're talking about, but, it goes beyond that. It's the diversity of those individuals and populations, and then the diversity of habitats and their distribution across the landscape. And all this is important for ecosystem function and resilience. This allows these ecosystems and species to be flexible and adaptable and stable through changing conditions and times. And so this is vital to ensure that the ecological processes and services that they provide are able to happen. And so when we talk about this, some of these ecosystem services, just a few examples, are air and water filtration that we get from plants and soils, through pollination from insects, and not just talking about, the crops, for our food, but as well as grasses and wildflowers and trees and shrubs that make up these habitats, which all these other species, rely on for food and shelter as well. Pest control, bats are huge control of insects, keeping pesticide costs down on our crops, helping to prevent outbreaks and agriculture as well as in silviculture, some of these large outbreaks we see in beetles and other things. We've got nutrient recycling, detrivores such as, your small like roly-poly type things, breaking down organic material, decaying wood to help, restore these nutrients back into the system. And as well as our cultural benefits, which we all love, from hunting and fishing to bird watching and just the enjoyment of nature. I mean, I'm sure, most of us would rather be outdoors surrounded by nature than, city with concrete and buildings all around. So, there's just that enjoyment of having all this wildlife as well. And so we often hear this referred to as a biodiversity crisis because we've suffered such substantial losses already. And there's these continuous emerging and compounding threats that we're seeing, limited protections to help, kind of stop or slow a lot of this, as well as a lot of needs, unknowns, and data gaps for actually addressing some of this, of what these habitats exactly need or species need to be able to better manage and protect them. And then, doing this with limited staff, resources, and funding. So I like this analogy here, our ecosystem bucket. We're leaking biodiversity and, doing what we can with what we have, to kind of triage situations, slowing it down. But, there's extra work that needs to be done to, fully address this issue. And so how does AGFC fit into this with, our role and responsibility? And so without action, these species are continuing to decline. We're going to lose biodiversity, these ecosystem services and processes, which are essential to our well-being, health, and in our economy as well. And the public is, increasingly recognizing the importance of this. We see growing contingency of non-consumptive recreationalists and things, a lot more bird watchers and others, that have just more appreciation for all this wildlife than beyond our traditional, just recreational use. And so our Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has been tasked with that responsibility via Amendment 35 to protect all wildlife in Arkansas. And we've done that well. We have a lot of success stories in the state and across the nation of restoring, some iconic game species through dedicated initiatives, led by Fish and Wildlife agencies with support of hunters and anglers and trappers to restore and protect a lot of these species, and even some non-game as well, such as bald eagle. And that leadership and that effort is going to be essential for preserving the rest of these species as well, like we've seen here. So we know that it works, it's possible. We just need to extend that effort to these other species to guarantee, survival and, the thrive of all these species. And without this, we will continue to maintain these species and begin to lose our state management authority over these species. As more and more species become declined and at risk, more likely to get listed under the Endangered Species Act, which makes the federal Fish and Wildlife Service the management authority. It adds another layer to our management efforts. So we'd like to keep these species under state control to be able to better manage them. And so to talk about Wildlife Diversity Program, my program, and how it fits into this, often also referred to as either non-game or at-risk, threatened or endangered species programs. These staff are tasked with conserving the majority of fish and wildlife species. You look at what species we have in Arkansas, just a few amount that we hunt, trap, fish, all the, thousands of other species and, how we're able to manage for those. We have several staff. You've met, a lot from non-game mammals and birds, fish and reptiles, and so on, that to do this work. As well as, like I mentioned, we have this growing wildlife viewing, non-consumptive recreation, which is kind of the representative for that constituency, often being the first, if not only, point of contact for a lot of these folks that don't have interest in, your traditional hunting or fishing. So it's important to be able to cater to that contingency as well. So one way to address this is through a kind of partnership and collaborative approach, a strategic approach of focusing our limited resources and funding, utilizing all our shared knowledge and experience to make science-based decisions and identify and prioritize our greatest needs. To develop a living planning tool, accessible and usable for all, we're able to use our resources to work towards shared goals to help meet these goals. But to do this, these plans require dedicated, adequate, and sustainable funding. And so one path of this is state wildlife action plans. I think most of y'all probably heard about these before, but these are blueprints for conserving species with hopes of preventing further decline and potential federal listing. Like I mentioned, they're proactive, collaborative, strategic approaches, and they have 8 required elements by Congress they must meet for us to be eligible to receive state wildlife grant funding. And those 8 elements are identifying our most at-risk species or species of greatest conservation need, SGCN, the habitats they rely on, threats that impact them and their habitats, conservation actions necessary to address those threats, as well as any research needs or data gaps, monitoring needs and approach to conserving these species, as well as public and partner input and involvement in the management of these species, and a commitment, like we said, to renew these plans every 10 years. So every U.S. state and territory develops one of these plans. They first were developed in 2005. So with this recent 2025 revision, this is the 20th anniversary of these plans and third generation of these swaps. So we submitted ours on October 1st, which very excited to have that done. On to the next step. Waiting, for government to open back up for Fish and Wildlife Service to review that. So they have that now. But these plans are unparalleled, conservation efforts. You don't see plans of this magnitude, for any other species or groups, really. Our staff and partners have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours over the last 3+ years working on revising this plan, and countless more hours go into the implementation of these plans. And, there's a lot of partners, from our staff. We've got our habitat biologists and taxa, biologists that rely on information that's been compiled in these plans to manage the habitats and species. Our partners help us gather all this information, compile it. They help with habitat restoration to meet these goals, as well as we've got a lot of universities that help, address these data gaps and research needs. Just endless partners that, participate in this. And so some accomplishments and successes we've had with this program so far is we've been able to restore and manage thousands of acres of habitat through prescribed fire, invasive species control and removal, timber strand improvement, streamline stability, things like that. We've had new understandings and knowledge of species, distributions, and statuses and requirements, allowing us to better manage for these species. I'm sure one effort you're all familiar with is the collared lizard propagation reintroduction that we've done. State wildlife grants helped restore a lot of these glades that they've been reintroduced as well as kickstart this propagation effort. We estimate that the work that we've done through state wildlife grants, we've had influence of at least 16 petition species to keep them from being listed in the Endangered Species Act. So we're able to provide information to show that these are not warranted to be listed. So that's a huge success, I believe. So talk more specifically about Arkansas's plan. As I mentioned, first plan was in 2005. We revised it in 2015. Did a minor revision in 2019 to add a couple species. And then here we are at our 2025 revision. And so many of y'all probably saw this back in early August when it went out for review. But I just want to kind of go through and hit some highlights of things we've changed. We did a complete overhaul of our plan this time around. You may have noticed we've had a big jump in our SGCN, or species of greatest conservation need. We're up to 520 species identified in this plan. A big part of that is the addition of plants for the first time. We've added 95 species of plants. While state wildlife, they're not eligible to receive state wildlife grant funding, it allows us to start prioritizing, what the needs are for these plants as well that a lot of these species rely on, which can be addressed with other funding sources. And then additionally, there's been a lot of efforts both nationally and regionally to standardize state wildlife action plans. And so we've adopted several of those approaches, such as standardized threats, conservation actions, and data gaps to help better identify the needs and the threats against these species, beyond borders. There's a new system of how we identify and prioritize our species, a tiered system, which is now 4 tiers: highest, high, moderate, and data deficient, versus a previous kind of system we had of calculating these priority scores. We've worked to update our habitat types and associations for these species. We've developed these new streamlined species profiles, kind of a one-pager to provide information on what these species require. We've introduced habitat guilds. We've kind of reapproached how we've identified our habitats this time around. So we've introduced these high-level guilds to kind of make conversations easier about some of these types. Instead of talking about like a specific type of forest or specific type of prairie, we can kind of classify a lot of these just into forests and woodlands or prairies and savannas, as well as kind of a hierarchical approach of how we deal with our aquatic systems as well. You may also be aware that we've been working on developing conservation opportunity areas, which are areas we've identified on the landscape as our highest areas, our highest priority needs for habitat restoration. We've identified and established 19 of those across the state, and we've been working the last couple of years to develop conservation plans for each of those COAs, which are summarized in this plan here. We completed a recent ecological mapping, high-resolution mapping project to help in conservation restoration actions for species and their habitats, as well as revamp our habitat section to include more information on desired future conditions and management and habitat recommendations for our field biologists to better manage these habitats and improve management plans, as well as the introduction of a regional chapter to show how Arkansas's efforts align with and contribute both cross-border and landscape level efforts for conservation. So the implementation of this plan, one way that we do this is through taxa and habitat teams meeting biannually to discuss identify funding priorities using the plan, the threats and needs that we identified in the plan, as well as what we've identified in our conservation plans of the COAs. We meet and identify our highest priorities for the next 2 years of what should be funded, we think. And so ways that we are able to fund some of this work, we have a few different funding sources: state wildlife grants, which we receive on average about $650,000 a year. In Section 6 of the Endangered Species Act, around $130,000 a year, as well as the work that we do with wildlife restoration or Pittman Robertson. While that's not geared directly at SGCN work, the way we do our habitat work using the information that we've collected in the plan to restore these habitats to historic conditions, we're able to benefit all species, game and non-game alike, through this work. We use state funding sources such as our conservation tax to cover some staff salaries, as well as supplies and equipment. And then just to also briefly mention a little bit more about state wildlife grants. So this is the only dedicated funding source to implement state wildlife action plans. And it's Arkansas's main source. And so, that's not a lot of money when you're talking about, almost 500 species to try to manage and their habitats with this. And in addition, so that money being insufficient, it's also discretionary, meaning that Congress has to approve additional funds every year for this program. And currently this program is at risk of being eliminated. We're just waiting to see how it works out with the federal government, if we'll have money here or not next year. So that illustrates even more, this need for permanent, dedicated, and adequate funding. Like I mentioned, with these iconic species we've been able to save, there's been efforts and studies that have shown, that it would take approximately, $1.3 billion to fully implement these swaps. And this was done back in 2014. And with that amount, that would give Arkansas, estimated $15 million. Legislations come out of that, such as Recovering America's Wildlife Act, or RAWA, which unfortunately will be passed, but nothing like that, has been passed to be able to give us the funding that we would need to fully implement these plans. And so, because of this, we plan to continue to seek additional funding and sources and opportunities to try to, supplement some of this, and if necessary, replace some of this funding if we lose it. Continue to communicate the need and importance and benefit of the continued increased funding for these programs, with the ultimate goal to obtain this dedicated, adequate, and permanent funding to fully implement our plan. And so in addition to funding, some additional needs and opportunities for improvement, we're just increasing outreach and education of staff, partners, public, to increase awareness and support for these plans, particularly on the importance of biodiversity conservation and on the work that we do for that, promoting broader implementation and utilization of these plans, beyond just our conservation partners. There's a lot of ways these plans can be incorporated into the state. Continue to advocate for and pursue additional funding, staffing, and resources to better implement these plans, and then continuing to develop and expand our partnerships and collaborations to advance our conservation efforts. And so some ideas of ways we're trying to approach this. We've worked with GIS to develop a new database for all of our species and habitat information. We're planning to convert this into an online dashboard that's going to be a lot more usable, accessible, versus the 900 plus page that the plan is right now. Be able to have a navigable website that you can go on and access and pull information from more easily. Developing habitat tools to allow our habitat biologists to utilize the information in this plan more readily and in the field to identify habitat types, write habitat plans, and improve these habitat plans as well. And then just continue to improve our implementation of the plan through adaptive management, looking at where we've had successes, failures, what can be, changed to, more efficiently, effectively implement these plans, and just continue to seek that additional funding to fully do this. And with that, I just want to thank everybody that helped with the revision of this process. My predecessor, Allison Fowler, the taxa teams, the taxa leads, GIS, our other staff that really did a lot of work helping us get this plan together. Could have not done it without them. It's definitely a team effort. This is, our state's plan, and I'm excited where we got with it, and I look forward to where we go from here. So with that, I can take any questions.
Any questions for Nick? Nick, impressive presentation, and it's amazing to see the list of partners that you had on there throughout the state. So well done, and we look forward to seeing it. You said that y'all are coming out with a website, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully within the next year, we'll be able to get that off the ground.
Wonderful. Well, please send that to us when it comes
Yes,
together.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you
y'all.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's welcome Director Schoenrock for the director's report.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. It's been 6 weeks since we last gathered. And we were at the September Commission meeting, and I know to most of the folks sitting in the front row here, it doesn't seem like 6 weeks because they've been doing a lot of things. Time has flown by, hasn't it? Our last meeting at Camp Robinson, SUA, on September 3rd was a phenomenal meeting. And I'd like to thank the staff who showed us around the SUA and educated us on a bunch of unique aspects of this truly special area. Our wildlife management areas are for the public, and they offer great opportunities for all kinds of folks to get out and do the things that they enjoy doing outside. We're honored to have Chairman Daramis back with us today. Anne-Marie, somehow you never wavered from your responsibilities and your communications, despite a new addition to your family, in addition to helping Joe survive. And Ike and Joe, welcome. Glad you're here today. Thank you. But I can assure you that on behalf of myself and all the commissioners, we're glad you're back. And we're excited over your new addition. Thank you. So today I'd like to just highlight a couple of things about our fisheries division. It's kind of the spotlight. So this division is led by Chief Tommy Laird under the direction of Deputy Director Ben Batten. And it's amazing of the things that they have responsibility for. And I'd like to just highlight some of those things. Number one is obviously our fish hatcheries, kind of a subject that is near and dear to all of our hearts right now. But both cold water, which are trout, and warm water, which are bass, catfish, crappie, bluegill, and forage species. And they're called hatcheries because they have the ability to incubate and hatch eggs, as well as raise fish for stocking programs throughout the state and public lakes and numerous community and family fishing ponds. They're also have responsibility for fishing, fish management, aquaculture, aspects of lakes and ponds such as water quality, vegetation management, forage fish management, fish habitat, both natural habitat and artificial habitat regulations, fish population surveys, and as mentioned before, stocking. They're also responsible for non-game aquatic species management. Nick mentioned a few of those earlier, but endangered species plus species of greatest concern, not just fish, but mollusks, invertebrates, crayfish, darters, and many others. They're also responsible for alligator management. We heard a little bit about that yesterday. They're responsible for herpetology, which are critters like snakes and lizards and reptiles and amphibians. And during the break yesterday, or right before lunch, Bill Jones and I went up and saw that big old snapping turtle in the back of Amanda's truck. Pretty cool, wasn't it, Bill?
As long as we didn't touch it.
As long as we didn't touch it. I tried to get Bill to touch it, but he wouldn't. And the interesting thing, asked why she had the turtle. The turtle was caught in a net, I think, right, Chris? Is that what it was? Yeah. And she was taking that turtle to the zoo to get x-rayed to see if it had ingested fish hooks, to understand the impact of fish hook ingestion on longevity of snapping turtles. Who would have ever thunk, right? I mean, it never entered my realm of thought to do that, but just goes to show the depth of the passion that our science-focused folks have. So impressive about that. But our fisheries group also manages nuisance aquatics, so plants, fish, and other organisms. They work in conjunction with our research division in conducting research. They do streamside bank improvements in areas where erosion and encroachment is destructive to habitat. They do shallow water stream crossing improvements to enable historical fish movement, to open up more stream miles for miles and miles for migration and spawning. So this division does a lot. They currently house about 90 employees, and that includes specialists, biologists, researchers, hatchery management folks, cold water species management teams, warm water species management teams, and a herpetologist. So with over 90,000 miles of streams in the state of Arkansas and 600,000 acres of lakes in Arkansas, it's a big lift for these 90 people. And we're very proud of the Fisheries Division and all that they have managed on behalf of the natural state. In other agency news, I'd like to just go through a few recognitions and accomplishments that your AGFC has accomplished since our September meeting. First, congratulations. I'm going to say Ted Z because I was encouraged to say that this morning, but Brad, why don't you pronounce that for us? Yeah, Ted Savishlock, who was named Conservationist of the Year by the Arkansas Prescribed Burn Association. Ted has been a pioneer in getting this program started at AGFC and leading Arkansas to where we are today in the prescribed burn category. We just heard from Nick, and some of you might not be aware of the countless hours that Nick spent on the Arkansas Wildlife Action Plan. He used the acronym SWAP, stands for State Wildlife Action Plans. And Ted and I Nick and I, did not coordinate this. But Nick sent me to school on SWAP about 3 weeks before I went to the AFWA meeting in Tucson at the end of September. And I sat through the meeting for a couple hours and went through the plan. And all I can say, Nick, is that when I was interviewing for this job, I was encouraged by the recruiter to read the SWAP for the state of Arkansas, and it wasn't online. Friends, I do good to read a book, let alone read through a state wildlife action plan. It is significant. I encourage all of you to take a look at it. I would encourage you to also wait till the digital version comes out, but it's very, very thorough. It's enlightening. It's extremely educational. And it's critical to know that the work that goes into this, the hundreds of hours by our staff, is not for nothing. It came as a significant topic at AFWA this year. And I was amazed when I sat among the other 50 directors of how many states aren't even close on the thoroughness that the state of Arkansas does on our SWAP. Some states, I don't think even have them. And collectively, we appealed to Director Nesbitt to provide funding for this important thing, because what we do for these species of greatest concern and potentially listed species in conservation for them helps conservation for all of our game species as well. So it's like being a farmer and looking at soil health before you decide what you're going to plant in the field. So the health of how we determine and how we support the littlest of creatures helps the biggest of creatures in the state of Arkansas. While there, I had the opportunity to spend a little time with our team that was there, and I'd like to congratulate in this photo our very own Matthew Warner, who was awarded a national award for the Federal Aid Working Group. And Matthew was able to receive that award for leading that group at the annual awards banquet. So congratulations to Matthew. So, and Mike, I'm sorry, this was a photo from my cell phone, and it's about as good as I can do. So we miss good photos from Mike sometimes. Thanks for helping us out so much. Back in September, a host of volunteers assisted our wildlife management areas cleanup on 5 different wildlife management areas. So a bunch of volunteers showed up at these 5 wildlife management areas, as well as some school groups like the Manila School District showed up to help with the effort. And many of the volunteers brought their own 4-wheelers, their chainsaws, and their own equipment to assist in getting these WMAs ready for the fall. In other news, just a couple of weeks ago, our chronic wasting disease management plan announcement came out, and it's resulted in 101 freezers being placed throughout the state for testing by the Department of Agriculture, one of our partners. And we also have 36 taxidermists online who are also going to submit samples for CWD testing, all part of our management program. And just a couple of weeks ago in Jasper, our wildlife division conducted a public meeting on CWD. The meeting was well attended, well run, and from what I've heard, the information received by the public at that meeting was well received. And so having that respect on a very critical issue amongst our deer and elk herds in the state was good to have a positive outcome from that meeting. On the education front, the Generation Conservation regional competitions are complete. We talked about those last time, and now we're looking forward to hosting the finals, November 5 and 6 in Hot Springs. So we anticipate nearly 200 schools and hopefully 1,200 kids participating in competition at the finals event. This program has been very successful in this pilot year with 65 schools signed up against a goal that the governor announced on June 6 of 30 schools. Congratulations, Chief Hatch, very good. On the private lands front, our private lands habitat division conducted their, I think it was the first, right, Garrick? Yes, sir. First annual event, we hope it's annual, Private Lands Expo at the Benton Convention Center. Very successful. The trade show and seminar event featured also a keynote speaker from the National Deer Association, and it was well attended by upwards of 200 private landowners. And for a first-year event, I think that was phenomenally successful, and I heard nothing but good comments from the landowners that I encountered while there. And just recently, a week ago, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission hosted our annual Becoming an Outdoors Woman, or BOW, B-O-W. It's a hands-on education training event. It was hosted at the 4-H Center here in Little Rock. Over 140 participants spent a weekend exploring the many facets of outdoor lifestyle. This program is also conducted by our education division. And right now, this week, as we speak, standing here right now, the ICAT is happening. ICAT stands for Immersive Conservation Training Agency Training. So what's going on here is this program is led by Eric Maynard, also from our education division, and it's focused on introducing new employees to Arkansas Game and Fish to the many aspects and responsibilities of conservation agencies like the AGFC. That's just a few things. Let's talk about some really important things as well that happened within the last month. We had some hunting seasons open, didn't we? Well, folks took to the water in search of alligators. And as Amanda talked about yesterday, and she might have even shown this picture, this is our 20th alligator hunt, I believe. And this was a 13-foot one that was harvested this year. Still a little bit short of the record, but we did set a record, as she mentioned yesterday, of 205 alligators harvested this year. Our dove season opened September 6th, was met with spotty success, on and off, depending on where you were, as was our early teal season at the same time, depending on where you were. The early archery velvet buck season was very successful this year with nearly 1,200 bucks taken in a very short 3-day season. Our archery bear season has resulted in about 365 bears taken this year. Out of total harvest will be about what, Ben? 450 for the full year? Six. So about half of our deer are taken with archery, which is pretty neat. And just a couple of weeks ago, our youth elk grant permit holder, Eli Hill, harvested this nice bull. Congratulations to Eli. Our Employee Appreciation Day was convened on September 11, and we had nearly 350 AGFC employees at the Jacksonville Shooting Complex, where team members were able to shoot, fish, enjoy some nice music, as well as eat some phenomenal catfish. Little update on Jim Hinkle, Spring River Cold Water Fish Hatchery. This hatchery was pretty much destroyed by a flood the first week of April. Flooding of the hatchery now is operating at about 50% capacity right now. We anticipate that getting up a little bit higher once we grow some more fish out, right, Tommy? And so probably June, July, we hope to be running at full steam ahead at Spring River, Jim Hinkle. So let's address the elephant in the room. In the past 2 months, tragedy has really struck the natural state. We've had 2 bear attacks, one fatal, one suspected fatal. It's been about 133 years since this has happened in the state of Arkansas. The first bear attack occurred in Franklin County in early September. And the bear from that attack was dispatched by AGFC officers. And a necropsy of that bear did show brain lesions that were most likely a contributing factor to the bear's erratic behavior. The second bear attack, suspected bear attack, happened in Newton County at the end of September. So a body was found after Sheriff's Department did a wellness check on October 2. The officers and biologists have established traps and surveillance cameras in the area. And on October 5th, a bear resembling photos of the bear that we suspected in the attack was harvested. And we're waiting necropsy and DNA results on that animal as well. I'd like to just remind all of us to be bear wise, to remain bear wise as we go about our different outdoor field activities. Bears are wild animals, and they should be afraid of human interactions. And on a lighter note, and I didn't have a picture for this because I didn't want to show all of it, but yours truly had the distinct honor of being a judge at the annual World Championship Squirrel Cook-Off. This was at the Ozark Highlands Nature Center, and we had over 4,000 people attend this event. Unbelievable for a squirrel cook-off. It was a lot of fun, and I will tell you, the food was great. I'm glad I went. I didn't get sick, and I hope all of you go sometime to this thing because it is a true festival environment. Seeing the world's hottest squirrel contest, eating contest, where literally I watched grown men fall to their knees after eating hot squirrels. There was a squirrel skinning contest, and I saw a contingent of students from the University of Arkansas, literally young women piggybacking on young men to see the fastest squirrel skinners in Arkansas. I've talked to the leaders of this event. I've appealed to them to, gosh, this is pretty popular. Maybe we should consider some bleachers next year, because you put 4,000 people trying to watch, or even 200 people trying to watch somebody eat a hot squirrel. And now they did give them squirrel beer. I don't know what's in that, but to drink after the hot squirrel eating contest, but they were not allowed to touch it during, and they had to eat a whole squirrel. And I think the winner ate that thing in about a minute and a half, and that dude's face was about as red as a tomato when he was done eating it, and it brought him to his knees. So please try to go next year. So I know that this report seems like a lot's been happening, but a lot has been happening. And a lot's happening today as we speak. You know, the business of wildlife and habitat conservation seems to never slow down. And in most cases, I guess our biology teams would say in all cases, working to help Mother Nature is always challenging. But your AGFC forges on, and we're not even in our busy season yet. It's just come around the corner. So hats off to the wonderful and dedicated staff who commit themselves to our mission. It's an honor to work with every one of them. So, Madam Chairman, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Schoenrock. And also, hold on one second while you're right there. October 16th. It's your birthday.
Oh,
Happy birthday, Director
you.
Schoenrock.
thank you. I would remind all of you that age is just a number, okay? Youth is in the heart. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, we got you that squirrel focaccia bread instead of a birthday cake, so it'll be out in the lobby afterwards.
We won't say what was on that squirrel focaccia bread.
Also, our very own Clifton Jackson, I believe, holds the title at the World Squirrel Cook-Off. Is that right?
Four-time.
Four-time?
Yeah.
We sure are proud of Clifton.
I did shake his hand, but I made sure he had washed it first.
Good call. Okay, now we'll get into our committee reports. First up, Commissioner Finley, Chair of Budget and Property Management. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will remind you that about 3 years ago, you didn't remember my birthday until we got to old news.
I thought about doing that today.
Wasn't new news,
It
but
just felt right.
hey, yeah, that was great. So the Budget and Property Management Committee met yesterday. We had one discussion item. Emily Shoemate delivered the agency's financial status report. Several action items. Kevin Mullen presented an action item for the resolution of an encroachment on Lake Charles. Rachel Wortham presented an action item for an easement at the Charlie Craig Hatchery. Mike Cantrell presented an action item for a budget increase of $62,221 of unobligated marine fuel tax dollars for the MFP project, improve the Shangri-La Resort Road leading to the Lake Ouachita in Montgomery County. Tommy Laird presented an action plan or an action item for a budget increase of $80,000 to purchase trout to supplement the impact of the trout loss at the North Fork Federal Fish Hatchery and to our trout hatchery on the Spring River as it comes back online. And then Mary Beth Hatch presented an action item for a request a budget transfer of $55,000 from the capital equipment purchase to support educational programming to include an inflatable cave, a portable stage, and 2 boating simulators. The committee tabled a budget item, a budget increase for the Jim Hinkle Spring Hatchery related to the storm damage repair. All the items received unanimous due pass from the committee. There was no new business. We didn't know about the old business, so there was none of that, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Finley. Thank you, Vice Chairman Finley. Next, Commissioner Tappan, Chair of the Regulations and Resource Management Committee. You have the floor.
Well, Madam Chair, I got to start off with the new business of birthday greeting and wishes to the director. It also happens to be my wife and my only son-in-law's birthday. I won't ever forget your birthday. How about that? Okay, Regulations and Resource Management Committee did meet yesterday. We had multiple discussion items. Clinton Johnson gave an update on the agency quail program, ongoing habitat work, and data from recent monitoring surveys. Dave Koterski was here with Ducks Unlimited Canada, gave an update on conservation efforts in Canada and the importance of that partnership that we have with the AGFC. Dr. Amanda Bryant presented on the recent alligator hunt, highlighting the record harvest of 205 alligators, while noting the significantly lower number of nuisance alligator complaints this year. Katie Thompson presented the bass telemetry study at Millwood Lake in southwest Arkansas, and Jen Sheehan presented an update on the Biomeda irrigation project. There was one action item. Christy Graham presented an update on the trout losses at the Norfolk Hatchery and an action item for an emergency trout regulation proposal, which received a due pass. The emergency regulation proposal includes increasing catch and release areas, reducing trout creel limits, and utilizing maximum size limits for most of the trout tailwaters across the state. It is intended to protect the angling experience and catch rates to mitigate anticipated reduced stockings over the last quarter of 2025 and the first half of 2026. The committee gave the item a unanimous do pass. There was no new business and no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Tappan. Next, we have Commissioner Jones, Chair of the Public Outreach Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had public outreach met yesterday, and we had two discussion items. Cody White presented on agency qualified prescribed burn courses held across the state, noting their positive impact on habitat on private lands. Also, Kyle Curry presented an update on game check and recent license sales data, which is a great presentation. We had no action items, no new business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. And finally, Commissioner Adams, Chair of Personnel, Governance, and Enforcement Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Personnel, Governance, and Enforcement met yesterday. We had one discussion item. John Marks delivered an update on the agency's ongoing legal matters. We had one action item. John Marks presented an action item for the formal election of agency game wardens and other employees, and the committee gave the item a due pass. In new business, Jana Highland presented a new agency remote work policy for committee action. And the committee gave that item a due pass. We had no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Now we have our commission items. Item 6A is the game warden and new employee election. John Marks, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Director. Yesterday, I presented an action item for the formal election of all Game and Fish employees, including the new game wardens, and that is to comply with Amendment 35 and to head off any potential legal challenges to the status of our employees and especially our game wardens. It did receive a due pass from the committee, so we appreciate a good vote today.
Okay, any questions for John? This requires approval from the Personnel, Governance, and Enforcement Committee. Commissioner Adams, was this approved by the committee?
Yes, Madam Chair. The committee gave the item a unanimous due pass.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, next, Mike Cantrell. Item 6B is a budget increase, Lake Atkins canoe and kayak access. Mike, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we have a minute order for your consideration for a budget increase for a project at the Shangri-La Road in Montgomery County. The budget increase is $62,221 will be from unobligated marine fuel tax, and I'd be glad to try to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for Mike? A very popular boat ramp on Lake Ouachita. This requires approval from the Budget and Property Management Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved by the committee?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you, Mike.
I might recommend we go check out that boat ramp, get a slice of apple pie.
Miss Carmen.
I was thinking chicken fried steak.
That pie's
We
good.
might all
That'd be
take a
great
nap
before
after.
the pie.
Yeah. Amen to that. If you all have not been to the Shangri-La Resort on Lake Ouachita, the lunch and the dinner is delicious. All right, next up, Rachel Worthen. Item 6C is a Charlie Craig hatchery easement. Rachel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners, Directors, staff, and guests. I present to you today a minute order granting a utility right-of-way easement to Carroll Electric Cooperative Corporation at the Charlie Craig Fish Hatchery in Benton County, and I'll be happy to take any questions and I hope for a good vote.
All right, any questions for Rachel? This requires approval from the Budget and Property Management Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved by your committee?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you, Rachel. Okay. Mike, another budget increase. Sorry to make you come up here, or well, wait a minute. We've already been over that one.
Yeah, Kevin Mulley. Similar, we missed Kevin.
Let me see.
Miss 6B.
We don't either.
I flipped the page too early. Kevin, I am so sorry. So item 6B is, well, hold
We
on a
didn't do
second.
Yeah,
You didn't,
Lake Charles.
yeah, Lake
haven't
Charles
done.
encroachment resolution.
Yeah,
We
so,
have not done that.
so we've already done that, but with Mike Cantrell.
So we got to go to B,
Okay.
6B.
Okay, so item 6B is a budget increase, Lake Atkins canoe and kayak access.
Nope.
Hold on.
Lake Charles encroachment
Charles
resolution. Mike, Kevin Mullen.
There's something off with my script today. I apologize. Landon, I'll forgive you eventually. Oh, it's never a dull moment. Okay, Kevin, you have the floor for the Lake Charles encroachment resolution.
Thank you
How about
very
that?
much. We have a minute order for your consideration that would authorize the director and staff to do all the due diligence necessary to resolve an encroachment at Lake Charles.
Okay, any questions for Kevin? All right, Commissioner Finley, I believe this falls under your committee. Did this receive a unanimous do pass?
Yes, ma'am, it did.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you,
you.
Kevin. Receives a do pass.
We didn't do.
Next,
The creek.
You told me Larry to buy some fish.
that's what I thought. Okay, now we're back on schedule. Here we go. Tommy Laird, you have the floor for item 6E, a budget increase for a trout purchase.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners Directorate, I've got a minute order for your consideration to purchase $80,000 to purchase 150,000 fingerling fish for the Spring River Trout Facility. This will help mitigate some of the loss that occurred back in April when the flood happened. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Tommy? Okay, this requires approval from the Budget and Property Management Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you, Tommy.
Still has.
And you have another one. Emergency trout regulation proposal. Item 6F is a budget increase for a trout purchase. Tommy Laird, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have for your consideration a minute order. Commissioner Tapney did a good job in your report, giving a general overview of that trout reg. But this is an emergency regulation. Christie did a good job talking about it yesterday. With the fish loss at the Norfolk National Fish Hatchery and the reduction of stocking for the next few months. She felt, and we feel the same way in the Fisheries Division, that this order is necessary. And I just answer any questions if y'all have any.
For the record, let me go back. The script, once again, repeated itself. This is just for the emergency trout regulation proposal, not a budget increase, as I previously said. So my apologies for that, for the record.
Okay.
This requires approval from the Regulations and Resource Management Committee. Commissioner Tappan, was this approved by your committee?
Madam Chair, it received unanimous pass.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you, Tommy. Okay, next, Mary Beth Hatch, a budget transfer for capital equipment. Item 6G, you have the floor.
Good morning, Director, Commissioners, Madam Chair. You have before you a minute order. As you said, a budget transfer in addition to capital assets of 3 items, a portable stage, inflatable cave, and 2 boating simulators. I'd like to add that all of those bits of information you asked for yesterday were sent to you as soon as I sat down.
Okay, this requires approval from the Budget and Property Management Committee. Commissioner Finley, was this approved by the committee?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion is approved. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you.
I want to do that boat simulator.
It sounds really, really cool. Mary Beth, thank you for sending the information on that. I know these kids will be really excited to get in there and learn more about boating and our boating laws in Arkansas, and to wear a life jacket, as always. All right, next, Jana Highland, item 6H, remote work policy. Jana, you have the floor. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Before you will be a minute order to authorize AGFC Policy 112, which formalizes the remote work policy and workday arrangements for the agency. I appreciate a due pass.
Okay, thank you, Jana. This requires approval from the Personnel Governance and Enforcement Committee. Commissioner Adams, was this approved by the committee?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
All right, I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you, Jana.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any new business to discuss? Any old business? Is there a motion to go into executive session?
No, ma'am.
All right. So before we adjourn, I want to open it up to the commissioners, just to kind of go through and do our little round robin session. And Dr. Michelle Evans White, I'm going to start with you. What's been going on in your part of the state and in your world in education?
All right. Well, thank you, Chairman. I really appreciated Nick's presentation today. I was glad he put that quote up from Aldo Leopold. I was thinking of that one myself. And I think that's a sentiment that really runs through all the citizens here in Arkansas. It runs deep, not just the biologists, but the hunters, the fishermen, the private landowners that are improving their habitats, hikers, birders, kayakers. And it's why I love being part of this state, and I'm thankful for being part of AGFC for a little while. Really glad to be part of this.
Amen to
Thank
that,
you.
Michelle. Amen to that. Commissioner Caldwell.
You know, there's a lot happening. We're in the thick of, just the really the beginning of, prime hunting season in Arkansas with so many different opportunities. But yesterday it was really nice. It was, extremely special last year, even more so this year, a little bit of somber. We're about 3 weeks from the anniversary of passing of Craig Campbell, and to see the Campbell Award winners. And, I just, he meant a lot to me personally, particularly my son, and he was such a larger-than-life guy. And so to get to, see us continue to honor his legacy, and now since his passing, this being the first award since his passing, I think was just very, very special. And to those award recipients, just a great honor of his legacy and all that he meant to the state and to conservation. And then just really, we are facing some challenging times, particularly with our trout. And I think we have a lot of opportunity ahead of us because of those challenges with the Spring River, with the situation in Norfolk. And we've done a lot of reflection after yesterday and last night, and just, it's a very serious situation, but I look at it as an opportunity that when we come out through this, hopefully with what is available to us in resources and what we decide as commissioners, that we, strengthen this amazing resource we have in huge tourism in revenue for the state of people coming from all over. I think I shared with some of you last night. I've been in the Orvis store in Chicago and Dallas, and when they heard where I was from, they were like, "Oh, do you know how good you have it?" And I think that we too take that as for granted as Arkansans, maybe not Representative Nazarenko or Rob here, guys who get to live in the cradle of our trout habitat. But I think that we have a big task ahead of us, and that's not lost on me. And I just would challenge the staff and everybody involved to realize we have some very difficult days ahead of us.
Sad, but very true. We do have difficult days ahead of us. And gosh, I can't believe it's been almost a year since Craig Campbell passed away, and I'm glad that we got to honor his memory by giving away that award yesterday. That was really special. Bill?
On a lighter note, not just every day do you hear a new term that you can use, and that hot squirrel thing is on my mind. I'm thinking about designing you a little hot squirrel pen, and I think that'd be just right on line for you, but you don't hear that just every day. But I also want to make an announcement, too, that Garrett Duckard, he won the Millwood Fishing Tournament. Was it last weekend or what? Yeah. won a little money. Caught how big was the bass? 4.9. Fantastic. Was it 2 or 3 day tournament, wasn't it? Yeah, awesome. So congratulations on that. But you know, what a unbelievable time of year. I mean, it's middle of October, the most beautiful time of year for me. So many things are happening. We've started boat season already. We have inline muzzleloading season coming up this weekend. I mean, just fantastic. Weather's changing. Going to get our first good rain on our food plots, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful time of year. So, you know, and thinking of all this, none of this would be happening, especially at the level, without all these people out here, with our agency and all the wonderful employees that we have. So I just wanted to thank you all for allowing this and working all year to make this happen. So I think y'all deserve a little round of applause. And also, the last thing is I want to thank DU for the beautiful event they had last night. And I was in Canada last week, and just flying up there, you have no idea just the daunting task they have of the size of Saskatchewan and Alberta and you know, all the areas up there. It's amazing what they've done. Over 1 million acres preserved. And without DU, I don't know that our duck hunting would be what it is today. But so amazing, and so thank you, DU. So just so many great things happening, Madam Chair.
Well said, Bill. And after that, you got me really excited for fall, and also got me thinking with your voice that maybe you should narrate an AGFC commercial, because I know that you're pretty good at that.
Because life's too short.
I'll get with Spencer on that, and they'll be reaching out soon, Bill. Jamie?
I thought I was going last. This is a pleasant surprise. I still have to pinch myself, you know, when I find myself sitting in this seat, and what an honor it is every day. But it comes with a weight that I know everybody, you know, behind this table has on our shoulders, as well as everybody in the crowd today, that of what we have ahead of us to manage a resource that is ever changing. It has all been here long before we were, and if we do our jobs correctly, it'll be here long after we're here, and hopefully better. I'm reminded of that when I look at the snapping turtle Amanda had in the back of her truck. You know, that 50-plus-year-old snapping turtle. Listened to a podcast on the way up here this morning of a largemouth buffalo fish that's over 100 years old. You know, alligators that were harvested that were decades old. You know, this is something that we have to remind ourselves of what we're actually doing here, and the history of not only the planet but the state of Arkansas and what we're doing. But remind ourselves to manage the resource, not the people. You know, the people don't understand the weight that's on our shoulders. Will never understand outside looking in of what you all do every day, and the reason why you do it, and the decisions that we have to make that are hard. You know, so it's just a daily reminder for me that it's just our turn. And I want to thank everybody, every employee of the Arkansas Game and Fish that. You know, I'm blown away every time I talk to everybody, and what all they do, how they do it, the dedication they do it with. Thank you all. I mean, it just blows me away every day. And, you know, we got things like the trout situation going on that is ever changing. And I think the communication that we have with the public about why we're having to do these things, the emergency regulations we're having to enact, I think that will help, but all in all, they will never fully understand. So when we are all getting bashed by the public, just keep your chin up, keep marching forward, communicate and remind them why we're doing it, and just know that you are appreciated, and thank you very much.
It is a weight that we carry, but I wouldn't change it for the world, and we're going to always go with the best information that science gives us. And I echo that, just so appreciative to our staff. And I know that with especially our trout, there's a lot of unknowns right now, but I know that in the end, it's all going to work out great. Brandon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to recognize this past weekend, our DMAP club had a very successful doe hunt, and just the ability to be able to manage the resource and things, and not be able to do that without someone like Ronnie Ritter and his organization providing the trailers and things. There's just no way that you would be able to get people to come and kill that many deer and manage that resource that way without his organization being able to manage the end result of that. And then us being able to, what he does with that, and his ability to feed less fortunate and things. It's just such an awesome program. And I know we talked about it before, but this time of year reminds me of it every time. So just want to thank you and your organization for what you do. So.
And we always love seeing you in the audience. Philip?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. My 2 C's for today, a challenge and a compliment. First challenge, I talked about this, Jana, last meeting. I'll reiterate it. What a great edification and consolidation of employee handbook data down to 38 pages, including the receipt. Well, we're entering into regulations period. I'll remind you again, Brad, thank you for all your work in leading staff and regulations. If we can take our most vital resource and we can direct it and guide it with 38 pages, surely we can take our next most important resource, right, our natural resources, and help enforcement and help staff, and most importantly, help our users by simplifying and consolidating regulations. So thank you, fellow commissioners, for already giving some suggested regulation guidelines, and it is our goal to try to streamline this. Now to the compliment. Y'all, one of the things we take for granted that we have so well developed in this state is our communications thread. Not only with our great communications internal department, but we're so blessed with an external communications resource. Randy and I got to be on the Wild Man show the other day, and Wild Man, I got several texts about people that had heard that show. But it's not there. It's the Brian Hendricks, Ray Tucker show, the Hedrick and show, and Brian's writings, and all the coverage that we get is incredible. We are so blessed with such a rich communications, and I just ask y'all, let's double down on this legitimate and authentic and supported communications channel, because there's so many illegitimate channels of communications in today's world that just don't deserve our time and response. And so thank you all. Brian covered today our trout regulations and did that so effectively, and also covered bears here recently, and Director, too much to your comments about treating them with respect and taking precautions. So I appreciate that communications partnership.
Well said, Philip. Rob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, so a lot of talk about the trout, and I'll come back to that. I want to start out with 2 things. One, the look on Bill Jones's face when he realized how many ring fingers that snapping turtle could take. And the impact to his business was gross. The second, there's more than you can put a ring on every finger. The second thing is a compliment to Mary Beth Hatch and her team and Coach Pinka. So we've worked together to develop through the years of the last 3 or 4 years of the outdoor class that they've done at Mountain Home Public Schools, has grown to a point to where kids now are coming in and engaging about wanting to be involved in a youth hunt. And so we're now this year for the first time are going to help sponsor a youth hunt within those at the Ozark Isle. The Corps has been willing to let us utilize that. So great things are happening to see folks come up to R3 and how that's going to reward those young people throughout. Many folks are getting involved in the mentoring of that, and it's always exciting to see how well they work up there. Today, actually it was yesterday, I was here. Tim Davenport, our game warden up there, held a class on elevated positions, elevated stands, which we brought out and put that together, which is a lot of fun. I haven't heard her feedback, but I'm sure it was exciting when kids have an opportunity to do that. And the most important part of that is being diligent and intentional with your harness. And so, again, starts at the young age. Great to see that. So all that being said leads me back to the one thing that I have a lot of passion about, as you know, is the trout program. We do have unknowns in front of us. if we take nothing else from this, there's two things I want people to understand. That is a vital resource, a $350 to $400 million economic impact to our state. And it doesn't go unrecognized that the vast majority of that takes place in that part of the country. Representative Nazarenko and I both see this on a daily basis of the impact it has, not just on guides, on resorts. It trickles down to the plumber, to the lawn care guy, to the restaurant waitress. All these people benefit from the economic trickle down of the trout industry. So let it be important and understood that we are very intentional when it comes to preparing and protecting that industry. And so while it may seem as an extreme move to do what we've had to do, the risk is very little. Lowest time of the year for our industry. The many folks that come this time of year are catch and release anyway. So that's important, but it's also important enough for us to protect. And so until we know what the unknowns are. Second thing is this, let me encourage folks that are out there, and because I think this is probably the one thing that hasn't been mentioned. With a catch and release on that much water, let it be an opportunity to reflect and remind people how important those fish are. They're not just millions of fish. And so when people are fishing, hopefully it's an opportunity for them to have a reflecting moment on that 45 miles of the White and the 4 miles of the North Fork as they catch fish and they normally harvest, that they are vital, they are sensitive, they are important to everything that we do. So an opportunity to reflect that, hey, when it does come time to harvest again, be diligent. Don't overtake. Just be sensitive about how important those are, because you take it for granted a lot of times, and until somebody makes you really think about it, you really don't know and understand the importance of what that means to everybody who've never picked up a fishing pole, who've never thought about going to the river, yet they still benefit from a really good resource. So I think it's important we all reflect. I appreciate Brian getting that out. Brian, if anybody says nobody reads your article, tell them to call me. I've received a number of texts, calls, everything else. You did a fantastic job of covering it, and thank you for that. Because that's the way you're going to get the resource protected, is folks through Brian and others who will get the word out to folks. And it's been very positive feedback from all I've seen so far, Brian. So thank you for that.
Well said, Robin. That's a testament to our anglers in Arkansas. Yes, we're not going to make everybody happy, but the fact that people are on board, they want to protect the resource, just as Jamie said earlier, because without the resource, then what do we have? So, a few things. First and foremost, thank you, Representative Nazarenko, for being here today. Really appreciate you joining us. Also, want to give a shout out to Deke in the back. There's Deke and Jibby with the foundation. They had 2 banquets this month, one in Southwest Arkansas at Grassy Lake, and another one in Northwest Arkansas that was a night of conservation. Was a huge success. Deke, next month I would love to hear an update from the foundation if you'll come up to Fort Smith and give it. All right. Also, this past month, I guess it was in September, we had our cadet graduation. Congratulations to all of our new cadets. We're really proud of you and glad to have you on board, and thanks for all you do, as well as all of our new employees with Game and Fish. I also attended the private lands banquet. In the past, we've had this as a dinner. It's always been very well attended, and it's kind of scary when you try something new, and I saw that we were having, an all-day event on a Friday, and I was thinking to myself, gosh, I hope people come to it. That's a work day, and I just hope we have really good attendance. Well, Garrick, you proved me wrong. It didn't matter if it was on a work day. Over 200 people in there. The speaker from NDA was fantastic. All the workshops were phenomenal, and I think that our people learned a lot about how to manage their land in Arkansas, from fishing to prescribed burns. So well done to you and your team. We had a great partnership dinner with DU, a relationship that has gone on for many, many years now, and we're very proud of the support that we give to them and also that they give to us for our ducks, especially as duck season is approaching. Also, this past week, the Snowden Waterfowl Center for Excellence was announced at University of Arkansas Monticello, and also the dike, the Snowden Dike endowed chair position, which will be taken by Dr. Doug Osborne. We congratulate him on that, and I've always been impressed with Doug's students. They could be future AGFC employees, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, but most importantly, they're teaching people about conservation, how to manage their land, and how to take care of the resource. So very excited for this new program at UAM, and very thankful for the people that made it happen. Next month, we will be in Fort Smith. Very much looking forward to it. I've said this before, but Frog Bayou was a project that was approved on my first year on the commission, and now I get to see it as it has come to fruition. So very, very excited to go and tour Frog Bayou, as well as Fort Chaffee. I believe we're going to pop by there too. I've never been to Fort Chaffee, but apparently they have some good quail habitat there, and that's something that Clint mentioned yesterday. So I'm really, really excited to go see Fort Chaffee. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention and say thank you to all of you for your thoughts and prayers that you sent to me, well wishes, messages on the arrival of our daughter, Olivia Doremus. Thank you very much. We're so blessed. We're all adjusting well, kind of getting some sleep. That's nice every once in a while. And big sister Liza is adjusting well. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. It is the most wonderful time of the year as hunting season approaches. The crappie are biting this time of the year as well, so you guys get out on the water. But most importantly, Commissioner Finley touched on this, be safe. Wear your harness, wear your orange when modern gun season comes around. Have fun, but even better, take somebody new hunting and fishing. That's all I have for today. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.